it to me.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Erica from the Classy Climb blog coming in on a Thursday with Investing with the Doctor. Real estate rentals with Dr. Mr. Meadows. Mr. Meadows, please introduce yourself to the crowd tonight.
Hello, Classy Climb. Dr. Kendon Meadows back again, your alternative investment specialist. Thanks to Erica for having me back on, sharing her platform and audience. And I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about my favorite asset class, and I think Erica's too, rental property. And so that's what we're going to rap about this evening.
Alrighty. Kick it off for us. I'm excited.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want to just go? So, you know me, I always got the slide game going here. So we're going to...
And I like that. I'm going to put your book link in as you're talking. Hold on. I'm putting it in here.
Okay.
Hey, Jabbar. Hey, Leslie. Hey, Michael. Hey, everybody coming into the show tonight. In the links, you'll see the link for Dr. Meadows' book. Also, you'll see some links. So thank you guys for coming in. Priscilla Jackson, everybody, welcome to the show tonight. Make sure you hit the like button as you come in because you know Skynet. Okay. All right. Hold on.
So I've entitled tonight's presentation, Income Property, the Ideal Asset Class. And so I wanted to talk about, out of all the alternative assets that I've invested in, they've ranged from private debt, businesses, the stock market, and everything. I mean, when it comes down to it, the cornerstone of my investing strategy, my retirement strategy, my income replacement strategy, it's going to come down to physical ownership of real estate. And we're going to talk about why that's the case. So a little bit about me. During the day, I'm a physician, I'm an oncologist, and I guess by night, I lurk on YouTube and do classes and live streams and podcasts and everything to promote my book and blog, Alternative Financial Medicine. I've had the honor of being featured on MSN Money, Alternative Investment Coach, and a few other sites and blogs, Bigger Pockets for all you real estate folks out there. I actually have a new episode coming out with them. If you guys want to sort of catch my story in audio form, the long version. Okay. And now to jump kind of right into our presentation, I think everybody knows who the guy is at the top of the screen is there. That's Warren Buffett, largely considered the most astute and successful investor, certainly of the last couple of generations. Okay. When we think of Warren Buffett, we principally think of things like, stocks, because he has certainly made a name buying humongous positions in things like Coke and McDonald's, these sort of old staple companies. And when he takes a stake in something, it's, hundreds of millions or $1 billion kind of deal. And so, back in 2012, and he's constantly on the financial shows and everybody's trying to pick his brain, hey, Warren, what would you do now? What would you invest in and everything? And kind of interestingly, he said, look, if I could, I'd buy a couple 100,000 single family homes. And the reason he says if he could is because somebody like him, you can't even buy that many homes in like a fell swoop without like destroying the market and running up the prices on your own self. Okay. He's actually got too much money to do that kind of thing. But some other large players, not as big as him, hedge funds, private equity, they actually have been over the last few years starting to get into the single family rental market, recognizing it as an asset class that is going to go up in value significantly over the next few decades. Okay. So people like the Blackstone Group and other big outfits like that are starting to get into the rental market, which still is a very fragmented market. I think something like 70 or 80% of all the people in this country that own rental property, they are small mom and pop type people, and like 70% of people that own a rental only own one rental. So certainly big institutional money, big institutional ownership of single family homes is a new thing, but I think it deserves paying attention to when these very big financial players come into this space that they previously haven't been in. Okay. And why are they coming into it? Well, home ownership rates in this country are actually at a 50-year low. So as far back as they've really been keeping careful track at it, in 2016, for sure, I mean, the rate was about the same, 63%, as it was back in 1965. And we had a pretty big spike to the all-time high, flirting with 70% or so at the height of the run-up to the mortgage crisis, and that's when, anybody could get a loan back then. No income verification, no job. They were just giving loans to anybody. So lots of people owned a house. But as things have started to shift back to more normal times, what we're finding is that there's a combination of economic, demographic, and psychographic or psychological factors as to why home ownership is not going to be as big a deal going forward as before. That narrative of it being like the American dream per se, we're starting to kind of rethink that. Certainly the millennial generation coming up behind us, they're saddled with student loan debt. They don't really think of having a home as being like this big part of the American dream. They're getting married later, which is oftentimes the biggest trigger to buy a home, that kind of thing. A lot of baby boomers are downsizing, preferring to rent, actually. And so what that has led to, though, if people aren't going to buy homes, they certainly still need to rent homes, okay? And so that has led to, let's see here, okay. Basically, on the left-hand side of the screen there, you see the average effective rent in the United States, sort of post-2008 financial crisis. It just keeps climbing up and up and up. Now, this is an aggregate of the whole country. So we know there's places like, San Francisco and New York or whatever, where, you can't rent anything for less than 2,000. But again, this is an average of the whole country. And as such, it is valid to look at that steady uptrend where like now the average rent's like $1,200. Okay. And also when you look at apartment lease renewal rates, okay, they continue as a surrogate for people still renting, that continues to just go up and up and up. And so we're basically becoming more and more of a renter nation. And so if you can be somebody that can own the income property, you've pretty much got a built-in, tailwind at your back to push up the rents and in a lot of cases, even the property value too. So that is one of the reasons why, whenever you look at some of these lists of richest people and you look at how they made their money, I mean, real estate's always at the centerpiece of it, and it's just going to get better and better. I'll take a quick pause here, Erica. If you got a question or if any questions have come in the chat here, just to see.
So I definitely want to say thank you to O'Shea for the $10 Polish money. He's watching all the way from Poland.
Nice.
Thank you,
Shout
Tim,
out to O'Shea. Yeah.
Comments. Some people tried to click the link for the Amazon for your book. It didn't work. We fixed it. It should be working. The new link I put up. Sorry about that, you guys. Also, hello, everybody. Mr. Shelley, how you guys doing tonight? What are some of the reasons you think housing is not going the way it is, right? I think right now I'm seeing Cam says, I think the sharing economy has contributed to the change in psychographics for re-rentals. Folks want in rather than owning. Like they rather be in that nice house than owning it. Part of it?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting thing when you look at that younger demographic, right? Number one, I mean, they're sort of not as economically secure because, like I said, a lot of them have debt. A lot of them have freelancey type jobs. A lot of them just value things like mobility and the ability to change locales, relatively easily if they want to. So that's another thing that just doesn't bode well for younger people buying houses as much. And I think we're starting to rethink the whole calculation behind the advantages of owning a house to live in. Now, again, I said I think if you can be on the landlord side of things, I think that's going to be, it's always been great, right? For the most part, and it's just going to be better for sure going forward. Any other questions in the chat? Erica?
I muted myself on accident.
Oh, okay. All right. I was wondering what was going on.
I was
Okay.
like pushing the button. I'm like, what is wrong with this thing?
Okay. Okay.
Let me see what else you guys asked. So Cam said digital no man life and stunting on the gram. Yeah, I would agree. That's a lot of it, right?
Stunting on
Like,
the gram. Nice.
well, there's this saying people are like, memories over
Over stuff.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
like memories over
Yeah.
stuff, experiences over stuff, which I've been seeing more and more people post that. And I'm always like, but you still got stuff. You got stuff in storage. You got stuff at your parents' house. You spreading stuff out all over the place.
Oh yeah, as a sidebar, yeah, self-storage, that's a good asset class to invest in. I'm trying to find an opportunity there because yeah, people still got to store that stuff. For
Yeah.
sure. So one of the reasons why real estate is such a powerful wealth building thing, I mean, when you look at all the different aspects to an investment, right? Um, Real estate has this kind of unique combination of tax advantage, appreciation, leverage, and cash flow that's really difficult. I haven't found another asset class that really had all of these in combination. And so to just quickly talk about them, the tax advantages, okay? I mean, when I get up and go to work to my W-2 job, which I'm very thankful to get, or have, I don't get to write off the food it takes me to nourish myself, to have energy to go do it. I don't get to write off the tie I got to wear. I don't get to write off the gas to drive there. None of that stuff. Okay. But it's all necessary expenses to do it. Whereas with my rental property, I get to write off everything associated with owning it. And the way that essentially works is, whatever that rental income is, if you have a lot of just normal everyday expenses against it, you get to subtract that off from that number before you get taxed. And that is a huge, huge savings. Okay. Can't emphasize that enough. Appreciation. Now, there are some people who invest in real estate and that's their main thing they're looking for. They're looking to buy something low and sell it as it gets up higher, almost like a stock. Okay. I view appreciation as a bonus in my real estate investing. I am principally a cash flow investor, but I do try to buy in areas that at least have the potential to appreciate as well. But it's largely a bonus, okay? But when appreciation happens, it can be a powerful, powerful thing. Leverage, that's just a fancy word for being able to control an asset and get all the benefits of the asset without having it totally paid off. And that is, a typical mortgage situation, 20% down, take out a loan on the rest of it. But again, you're considered the owner and you can get all these other advantages of the asset as if you own the whole thing, while only in actuality having paid for a fraction of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, and pretty much my favorite is cash flow. I mean, when it comes down to it, I go with the Robert Kiyosaki definition of an asset. Okay. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket on a regular basis. Okay.
Yes.
So, 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 the home that you live in, unless you do a little Airbnb on the side or something like that, that is not an asset. Whereas there's a lot of mainstream financial people that would say your home is an asset, but I've owned my home for a few years, and I just write checks to it, including like a roof and the plumbing and whatnot. So, but my rental properties, on the other hand, I do get a check from them every month. So cash flow, big. So I use the acronym TALC, TALC, to remember that. Erica, you want to comment on any of these?
Oh, for sure. We've got some folks in here on the chat side asking some questions. So I didn't want to ignore them. I was getting to y'all. Give me a second. It says over here, I'm going to, Miss Vegan says, what credit score do you need to get approved for my first house? I'm going to say 580 at the lowest is what FHA says, but what's your thoughts on that? That's
I would defer to your knowledge on the credit score business. I mean, fortunately, I've had more than adequate credit scores, typically in the high 600s, low 700s. So that hasn't been too much of a problem. But you're saying 580 can get it done?
It's the low, yeah, it's the lowest. Okay. FHA can get you in the door with a 580. Now your interest rates aren't going to be pretty, so we want to get you up there to 620. We want to get you closer to a higher score, so that's why a lot of people reach out right before they buy a home. The first 6 months before they buy a home, they want to fix that, make it look nice.
Right.
So Thomas Jackson says people will always need a place to live.
Amen.
Very much so. And I think a lot of people here, even in the apartment complex I'm in, it's kind of considered a luxury apartment. The ones beside us are luxury. I see people over here who I think are here by the skin of their teeth, per se. You know what I mean? Like they've got there's a couple people with $70,000 cars outside. And when you walk by their apartment, it's very bare. Like, I'm a minimalist because I choose to be. I think some of these people are minimalist because they don't have a choice. I just can see a lot of people wanting to live nice. And on their salaries, they probably could afford a house, but it wouldn't be the dream house. Do you know what I mean? Like, everybody wants to skip the starter house and go straight to the dream house.
Right.
I think that's a big part of it, of what we're seeing in the economy. So Cam asks, what do you think about buying homes in lower income neighborhoods in cities where the median home prices are through the roof, i.e. Brooklyn as an example, but foreclosure sales opportunity are in abundance?
Well, that he's kind of leading into my next point here in terms of the kind of houses that I target to buy real estate. Okay. I choose to invest in what's called workforce housing. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Worker housing.
Yeah. And this is actually a picture of my actual portfolio of houses in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay. So what do we mean by workforce housing? Okay. So, the person was specifically asking about buying houses in lower income neighborhoods and that kind of thing. Well, I think the sweet spot is buying houses in sort of, literally like middle class, maybe lower middle class type neighborhoods where, the people that you're renting to, they do work. Okay. Typically my tenant is a couple. They may be married. They may be not. They typically have been together for a little while. There's typically children in the mix. And both adults in the house typically work. Okay. And so I target these 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses. They're about 1,100 square feet.
Are you getting ready to show us a picture?
Are you seeing it?
No, I'm not. Share your screen.
Oh, I'm not sharing the screen? Oh,
no.
Okay. Okay. Man, I did not realize that.
I was like, yeah, show us.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Let's see. So you guys are seeing me then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's going on with the screen share? Okay. Application window. Oh boy. I just did the whole picture within a picture thing. We don't want to do that. All right. Hold on. Let me fix this puppy. I thought we were.
It's okay. We're just like, I'm like, all right, let's see this house.
Okay. Oh, it's not showing my PowerPoint here as a thing to choose on the screen share. So what is going on with that? Let me see.
Look over, go outside your view, look at it, click on it
with
your clicker, and then come back and try to screen share. because
Okay.
it may not have the screen share may not be picking it up.
Yeah, let me see here. Why is he not doing that, people? Because I definitely want to show you guys what my typical house looks like for sure. Slideshow, setup slideshow. Okay, bam, bam. Okay. All right. So this is not the greatest thing here.
You're doing good. You're doing so good.
Okay, here we go. I think we got. All right, I think it's picking it up now. Okay.
Hey, there we go.
Okay. So did you guys like see?
We saw all that. We saw all
Oh,
that.
we saw
Earlier.
all that.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
good. I
great.
got lots of
Okay.
photos of it.
Okay. So, all right, let's go back to talking about the type of house here. Bam.
Hey, there you go. Go back one. Go back one.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, there we go. So
We can see.
these are the kind of houses that I target here on the west side of Jacksonville. You know, not on the beach. That's the expensive stuff, and not in the war zone as we call it either. Okay, because I just some people do really well and at the very low end, but I just didn't want to deal with that kind of profile. Right. So I target these 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses. They're about 1,100, 1,200 square feet. And in the real estate investing language, they grade these neighborhoods, A's, B's, C's, D's, you know, that kind of thing. So these are kind of B-level neighborhoods, okay? And again, when we looked at that other slide, the average rent in the whole country is about $1,200, right? So I want a product that's going to be around that rent level or a little bit below, to be honest with you, okay? And I get these houses, I get them fully renovated. So we typically get them distressed and we do all the big stuff to it: roof, plumbing, HVAC, new flooring, you know, that kind of thing, in order to keep the expenses low on them. Okay. And who rents from me? Okay. Well, you see my tenant profile: a nurse, dietitian. There's an IT guy who owned his own business, bus driver, a few people who are on Social Security but also have part-time jobs. You know, those types of folks. Okay. They're stable. They stay for a long time, typically. Okay. And you know, one of the attractive things about single family homes as opposed to apartment complexes, and we certainly have people who advocate very strongly for apartments, the kind of the upkeep that I'm responsible for is actually pretty minimal. People that rent single family homes, it's the expectation is that they're going to be the ones that cut the grass, keep the hedges trimmed, you know, all that kind of external type stuff that you typically would have to do for an apartment complex. You know, they get their own washer and dryer, you know, that kind of stuff. And they tend to think of the place as more of their own, even though they're renting it, you know?
Yes, they treat it better because apartments suck.
Right. Right.
And
because you got to imagine, you know, most people, particularly families, right? People that have families that are in apartments, they're pretty much looking to get a house, even if it's just a rent. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the only people I think that stay in apartments long term are kind of single folks or people really on the margins economically. Say again?
I said cat ladies and dog dudes.
Right.
Sometimes.
So, you know, and one of the reasons I chose this level of property, this type of property is very resilient to changes in the economy. Okay. When the economy starts getting shaky and we go through like our next downturn and recession, which was inevitable, luxury rental property or high-end rental property is actually some of the first stuff to start to shake out when we have a recession. So very nice luxury apartments, you know, yeah, people trade down, right? Whereas these folks here, while there could be some of that, for the most part, they're not willing to really trade down much. They'll hustle, they'll find another job, they'll do what they got to do or whatever, and they're going to try to stay kind of at this level. Okay, so it doesn't really fluctuate that much with the economy. Okay, now on On the low end, where you got things like Section 8 and that kind of stuff, the nice thing about that is that doesn't fluctuate either. Those folks have their rent paid for from the government. But again, that's just a whole nother issue with
And
the tenant
I made
profile.
a whole video yesterday about that. We gonna leave that alone.
So the nice thing about this is that, despite having multiple properties and multiple tenants, I got to be honest with y'all. I can certainly go 2 and 3 months with nothing occurring. And I mean, pretty much nothing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of nice. Okay. And we all want that mailbox money. And like I said, for months at a stretch, it's pretty much like this with no major issues or complaints or anything like that. Okay.
I
So
would
that's
think
good.
it's because of the profile you're picking as a person who would respect the house, treat the house well. Your tenant profile is pretty good. I mean, that's usually people who are working and just want to come home to something nice.
Right. Exactly. And the other big thing too is like we're real responsive. Like when something does go on, like a toilet break or this, like we jump on it. You know what I mean? Like we don't lollygag and whatnot. So I think that also kind of helps in terms of just the tenant just appreciating, like, okay, I got a good landlord here too. They're not trying to nickel and dime. They're not slow on repairs, that kind of stuff. Okay. So that's another big part of it as well. But, despite the fact that it's mostly smooth, I'm going to share with you guys, some of the downsides as well, because, it's not all paradise. Yeah. So this was actually, I started building my portfolio in 2014, so been owning stuff for 4 years. And like I said, I've got some tenants that haven't moved in close to 3, but my first vacancy was kind of one of these unexpected things. So this was a email I got from my property manager. I'm reaching out to let you know the tenant has moved out of the home. She came to the office, dropped off her keys. She only had 2 months left on her lease, but for some reason she decided to break it. We conducted a walkthrough. Everything was in good shape. So we will get this one on the market ASAP and have an extremely quick turnover to get this rented out. Thanks. Now, this woman here, she had been in that place for close to 2 years. She hadn't been a problem tenant or anything like that. And, but again, 2 months left on her lease. And she decided to just kind of break it and walk on out. Right. And, legally speaking, I'm told that you can technically go after these folks for that broken lease. But practically, it's one of those things where, like, particularly if they leave the place in decent shape, it's sort of like, okay, we'll just.
What's the point of it? Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
let's leave it, because when you go after people, you're pretty much going to get something on their credit per se.
Right.
And that's, and also, hey, there's 100 people in here right now. Let's definitely hit that like button. I see you guys' comments, but I love what Mr. Meadows is talking about, Dr. Meadows, excuse me. So I want to hear it. So I'll definitely get to your guys' comments soon, but I'm enjoying this. Keep going.
So, vacancy by far is your number one expense when you have rental properties. Okay. Because all of a sudden, like I can't remember on this whenever I have a loan on it or not. I have a loan on like 6 of my properties and 4 I own outright. But it's not fun when, say for instance, out of that $1,100 of rent that was coming in, maybe 400 or 500 was going to pay on the loan, right? And now all of a sudden that's gone. So guess who's got to cover that loan payment for that month? That's you. So that's lost rent. There's turnover costs, particularly if people stay for a couple of years, even if they, treat the place pretty nice, there's going to be that normal wear and tear, right? So, if there's some carpet there, you at minimum got to steam the carpet. Usually got to put down a fresh coat of paint, depending on how strong your rental market is or not, you may have to advertise pretty decent. Your property management people will typically charge you maybe like a half a month's rent for finding a tenant and all that kind of stuff. So, you're going to be out a couple $1,000 easy on a turnover, So keeping that to a minimum is crucial, So, ideally you would want somebody to stay put for a couple years or longer. You certainly wouldn't want to be going through this once a year on each one of your properties. Okay.
I've noticed when it's single family houses, most people do stay for 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
School
And my
district,
property,
small
yeah.
kids.
Exactly. And so, my property management folks, initially they were doing, it was like a 1 year lease, and then they've been doing 2 year leases for a while now. And now
Oh,
they emailed me saying that they're actually going to start rolling out like a 3 year lease. And so I'm like, okay. On the one hand, I think it's kind of cool that at least you're kind of attracting people who kind of know up front that's the expectation. I don't know how vigorously we would go after them if they broke it. I think if they broke it maybe in year one or something, you might. But I'm gonna go see how that kind of plays out. But
I think when it comes to that, it's they're locking in the high rental rates.
uh-huh.
And so even if rent goes down next year, you're kind of locked into this place. I think that's kind of what that's coming from.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But in any event, this one here, a couple weeks of turnover type stuff. We had it rented out in barely a month from when the time this lady had left. So, in the grand scheme of things, not too bad. Okay. Now, this was a little bit of a surprise. This is the cat lady hoarder person. Okay. Good
It's always
evening.
one cat lady. It's
Uh,
always one.
yeah, I'm reaching out to you regarding your property at blank. We recently conducted an inspection. It appeared to us that the tenant living at the property is having a huge hoarding issue. There were multiple cats in the property, as well as boxes of trash stacked up extremely high. The house reeks of strong cat and dog odor. She has not paid her rent for the month as well. Her lease states the price will go up 10% once she's on a month-to-month lease, so we're still waiting on $500 that's owed. The tenant gave us notice she wanted to move out in January. She's mentioned to us many times she'll be leaving the property, but never has. So we have a hard time believing her.
So she's one of those people that basically just complain.
Right.
Like complaining about it, but not really. She doesn't want to move because who's going to take her after you give her
Right.
a bad review?
So we recommend we evict her, get her out of here before things get any worse. Let us know how you want to proceed. I have attached pictures, and as you can kind of see there, I don't know how well that's projecting, but like the garage is just like totally filled up. And
Oh my God. I just anxiety.
that, yeah, yeah, so this is, so in actuality, now check this out. I was told by the property managers, believe it or not, hoarders are actually a protected class of people because they're considered to have, yeah, they're considered to have like a mental disorder, that kind of thing. So technically speaking, you cannot evict somebody for hoarding. What you can evict them for, though, is if it's kind of like a fire code safety violation kind of. So that's what we went with to get this lady out of here. Because it was, like I said, it was just stacked up. I mean,
how long has she been living there?
She had been there a couple of years. Like everybody. No, actually, this lady had been here less than a year. 1 year. This is one of my one tenants that was. Yeah, man, craziness. So clearly, I told him like, hey, man, let's kind of move on here. This was a more expensive cleanup job because there was a lot of carpet, and like we couldn't, like, I think even after steaming it or whatever, there was so much urine stains.
Oh, I mean, you can't even. That's a rip up immediately.
So that was a rip up, and we put in like the vinyl plank laminate kind of fake hardwood type stuff throughout. So that was kind of expensive and everything. But yeah, that was a trip. So that was my other not so great story. And then lastly, okay, you guys may remember, gosh, it's a couple years ago now, Hurricane Irma that came through the Florida coast. And Jacksonville did in fact get hit. That is actually, that picture there is actually from Jacksonville with the water up like that. And you see the trees down and that kind
Wait,
of thing.
go to the next. Oh, let me see. Let me look again. Sorry.
Yeah. Are we there? You see?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Somebody had a question, and I was just reading it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. You want to hit a question?
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So, in addition to property damage, Hurricane Irma has had a huge financial impact on our tenants through the loss of income, food and resources, and damages. Many tenants have not paid their rent for September and already saying they're going to have issues in October. So I had about 5 or 6 people who couldn't pay during those couple of months. And that was a little stretch there where, that was the first time I had to come out of pocket in a meaningful way to kind of cover my rental portfolio while these folks got things back together. Now, interestingly, right? This is something you just never would learn unless you're kind of in the middle of it. There's a rent relief fund that's part of the hurricane relief fund that actually wound up compensating us for some of that lost rent. It's kind of an insurance thing that they have there. So while temporarily that was painful, I actually did wind up getting paid a nice chunk of that lost rent out of that fund there. So that goes to show you insurance is key. Okay, so that was another challenge too. With the particular locale of my rental property. So those have been like my 3 biggies that I've had there. The first one not so big, second one kind of big, and then when the hurricane hit, that was by far the biggest thing. Now, fortunately, I didn't have any, like in terms of like flood damage that was any significance, and there were a couple of trees that came down, but nothing that actually like hit any of the homes and like did any kind of big damage like that. So we were lucky in that regard.
Well, I got a few questions. First, for the hoarder, somebody asked, does insurance cover that, right? When you had this person, is it kicked out because of hoarding, but because of a fire hazard or whatever? Would insurance, landlord insurance cover that?
Well, if you bought landlord insurance, I don't have rental income insurance per se. You can purchase it. My mentor in the rental game, she doesn't have it, and she never really steered me down that path of looking into it. But yes, for a certain fee, that you would pay every month, like if your tenant moves out unexpectedly and all that kind of stuff, you can file a claim and get rent insurance when they would kick in and pay for those months when people leave. I don't think it's something that a lot of people wind up paying for, Erica, because I don't hear many people doing it, but it is out there.
Well, there's a surety bond that a lot of companies have switched over to, where hey, you pay this $120 surety bond for $10K. So if a long list of things happen and then you get paid out, use the apartment complex gets paid out. And that has been to replace some of these huge deposits, right? Because people just don't have these huge deposits. So that's been something a lot of people have been switching to as far as homeowners. And, it's like a surety bond has been really good for a lot of people because it's like for $250, you're getting $10,000 worth of coverage, right?
Okay.
So, and the lump is a one-time payment. So now there is other question. Someone asked, do you sell people's things when they leave the home? Now I know on our end legally you're supposed to hold it for 30 days if people leave things behind, depending on the state. Okay, so I'd have to check Florida's rules, but
I think we have a provision where we would deduct from their security deposit like the cost to put their stuff in storage and that kind of stuff. I mean, you don't want to get in a situation where like you sold somebody's stuff and they come back looking for it. Like, I don't want to get involved in that. I'd rather store their stuff, and then once the security deposit money runs out where they can't get it stored, I'm not sure what would happen. I haven't
run curb it goes.
Yeah, I think you put on the curb.
Cameron auction it goes.
yeah, storage auctions. That's right. But no, I would have no interest in doing that, to be honest.
Okay, so there's a couple questions. We're gonna get in here a little bit. But I like your like, you always do really good PowerPoints. Somebody said, Cam asked it, would your buying approach also apply to buying multifamily homes under FHA? Now I'm going to give a little caveat. Up north, people love multifamily housing FHA. They love it. I don't know. Every New York person I get on the phone is like, I want to buy 4 units. So it's very popular in their area. But oh, I like that. Would that be something you'd like to speak on?
I don't have any experience in that. I mean, um, I see the attraction of buying multifamily, small multifamilies, because you can get the traditional financing, long-term low interest rate financing on it, and you can buy more doors at once. What I found though is like that small multifamily, the triplex, quadruplex thing, that's very kind of region specific. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot more of that up in like the Chicagos and New Yorks of the world. Jacksonville does actually not even have a whole lot of that as an opportunity. So I can't really speak too intelligently on it. I would say this though, in general, I still think that while people who might stay in those type of properties, they might stay a little longer than a traditional apartment. I mean, I still think that, anytime you sharing walls or whatever, people are always looking to get their own space.
Oh yeah, it's high turnover. People don't talk about this,
Hmm.
but in 4 units, there's a high turnover. Usually it's 1 year, 1 year. That's it. So, because you got to think about usually the parking is a problem, or the noise of one of the four is a problem. So that's a big thing. I know people love, like, there's a book called Getting Rich with Duplexes and Triplexes and Fourplexes. So people are really big about that. But what I've noticed talking to a lot of the landlords here in Austin, it's high turnover, like every year on the dot. You know.
Yeah. So
So
I probably honestly would not buy a small multifamily over the single families. I just, despite these couple of, pretty significant things that I've showed you here, again, for months in a row, nothing goes on with my properties. You know what I mean? So
and your resale's better, I think, honestly,
yeah,
with single
yeah,
family.
yeah, I would agree.
There's so many exit strategies. You could turn around and do rent to own, turn around, just sell it right out. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do.
I've
Um,
I've had I've had two of the tenants actually offer to buy the properties that they're renting from me. Actually, they
I
wanted to
know
buy
people
them.
people hate moving. They're
Right.
probably like, please.
And I didn't wind up selling out, even though the one would have been a nice little gain on it. But I just, I want to hold these things for a long, long time. So she wound up moving out because she couldn't buy it. So
Oh
all
yeah,
right.
people. That's a big thing. Now I'm gonna say a few more. I love what you're going through, but I just want to.
Mhm.
People don't think I'm ignoring y'all tonight. Um, Ian Rogers said, would you invest in real estate in Atlanta or Detroit for starters? Looking to move to either or.
Well, I
I
mean,
currently invest in Detroit,
I was
but
about to say, I know you. Yeah, you're part of some group up there that's doing that, right?
yeah, and I'm in the process of trying to get just a single family house. So go ahead.
Well, real estate. It's obviously a very hyper local market. I know the Jacksonville market. I can only speak in broad terms about Detroit versus Atlanta. I know there's a lot of construction going on in Atlanta, a lot, and in general, the population of Atlanta is continuing to go up and everything, which ultimately is the big tide that's going to push real estate prices and that kind of thing. Detroit, I am sure there are some screaming opportunities up there in Detroit. They're investing in a serious way up there. The guy that owns the Cavs, that Quicken Loans guy who's from Detroit, doing a lot downtown. The Chinese are in Detroit buying up
Oh
property.
yeah, Middle
So
Eastern are very much.
yeah,
Brazilians are in Detroit. Black people from New York, Black people from California. I mean, when I went, I was just shocked at how much construction was going all around. And you got to think when something's so low. I mean, it's not uncommon to meet people who are from Israel who are investing there. So it's
hmm
like, not saying the gangs are over, but like a lot of the investors, like, when something is like a fire, there's a theory of like, if something happens bad in the area, no more problems, right? Like, and what does that mean? Like, if you have a fire in the area, then the next couple of years, everything is geared toward rebuilding that city.
hmm
Same thing with a tornado. Everything is geared to rebuilding new things in that city. And so what people don't understand is when they made that call on Detroit, oh, it's so broke up here. You know, even my Uber driver was like, yeah, we thought the city was gonna die. And it's like, and then it just came back to life. And so it's very interesting talking to them.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So, I mean, you know, for me, I think you can do really well in both places. But you know, the issue is, you know, you got to find somebody on the ground that you're connected to and knows what they're doing. You know, that'd be my number one advice before you did anything in either one of those places.
Someone also $4.99 super chatted me, but you took your message away. So whoever supported the channel, thank you so much. I think he was saying something about being 24 and interested in buying houses. So I see what you're saying. Even Aaron Black Legacy said he's been approved for FHA. Everyone's telling me to find my dream home. I'm just trying to hold out to find the right investment. So yeah, you know, here's the thing. What I would say on my end is there was years I look back now and I regret the first recession happened and I was offered so many deals, but I felt like, oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, I'm just sitting on the sidelines. And to this day, I could just kick myself. Even 3 years ago, there was a house, it was like 135,000. I was like, nah, there'll be other houses. That same house went on sale earlier this year for 280,000. And so it's like, it's like, don't sit too long on the sidelines, right? And that's kind of a big thing. But I'm going to go ahead and but for the ATL Detroit, I mean, it depends. If you're going to move there, you can find properties. I always tell people go on realtor.com, go an hour from where you live. You'll find cheaper properties. People always go, but everything's not different. It's so expensive. It's the rule of thumb. Go out to the country, young man or young lady. Go an hour out. So, but go ahead. I'm ready for the next slide.
So yeah, we're going to kind of wrap things up here, and you know, basically, you know, you're going to be an investor. You've got to be knowledgeable about things. And so, you know, before I got into this game, you know, I did a tremendous amount of reading, number one, on my own. Some of the books that I read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a great one, Building Wealth One House at a Time by John Schaub. You know, just a couple of things to kind of get the vocabulary down and make yourself a more knowledgeable investor. Podcasts have been huge for me, specifically with real estate, the Bigger Pockets one. And then, you know, mentoring, you know, finding somebody who's actually doing the stuff that you're doing. I mean, that has been absolutely invaluable. Let's see here. Oh, going to real estate investor associations, RIAs, as they call them. You know, I mean, I never would have thought that I'd go to one of those, but, you know, and I don't go on a regular, but I went enough to make some connections. You know, you don't have to, you know, go to every meeting for sure. Mastermind groups, great for accountability and networking, conferences. So, you know, again, if you're going to be serious about this, you always got to be trying to educate yourself. Okay. And conclusions, direct ownership of income property is the best way to realize all the benefits of cash flow, tax advantages, and potential appreciation. And and capital reserve requirements, though, you know, your reserves, they can be significant, and you got to budget and account for them. Okay. And I'd appreciate you guys. I think Erica's got the link down below. Pick up a copy of my book.
Somebody said they bought a copy in the comment section.
Great. Because not only do I cover rental property, but, you know, all this other stuff that I do as well. Peer-to-peer lending, crowdfunding stuff.
And you're coming by to talk about options on the Investing Wednesday show, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that too, you know, absolutely.
You know, Dr. Meadows I'm starting to think he's Nigerian like Money Man out here doing it.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so there's a lot of comments. I'm just going to scan through them because I really respect the doctor's time. Listen, he working all day saving lives, and he's here with us. Thank you so much. The Greek surgeon, thank you for the $5 super chat. Erica, you should do a rehab show on YouTube. I may do a recording with my video guy in Detroit. But the houses I'm picking in Detroit are a little bit, they're not war zones. They're a little bit up, a little bit on the edges, a little bit better. David Porter, yeah, in Detroit, go 15 minutes outside of downtown for cheap rent. Exactly. That's the rule of thumb. Won't he do it? I see y'all talking. Okay. let's see what else. Sorry, I'm trying to find some good stuff. Somebody's talking about Baltimore homes being really cheap. Also, there's a people I'm going to bring on the channel called Charm City Buyers. We're, you know, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. I'm bringing on Charm City Buyers because they specialize in Baltimore area. So for those of you who are in the north, and you want to learn more about Baltimore, Maryland, I see Angela and a few other, I'll be bringing them on to talk about that. So hopefully they can come on and give you guys some good information. Let me see. Where else? Oh, goodness. Let me see. There's a couple more. Mark Doc, thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, great show. He loves the doc. So one Mark DC loves you. Thanks for coming on. Okay, let's see. Are you still there, Doctor? Did we lose you? Hopefully not.
Oh no, I'm still here. I'm sorry, I hit the mute
So
by
he
accident.
chatted and said thank you. Henry M said, any good contacts in Detroit for real estate investing? Henry, we always bring on Asia. We'll bring her on. Okay, who else? Let's see. Lenny said, thank you, Dr. Meadows. Ian said, thank you so much. Cam said, beautiful show tonight, Dr. Meadows and Erica. Thank you guys for thank you guys for all these comments. They're great. You know, I love all these are amazing. So somebody in here asked about Detroit. Let me make sure I check it. Okay, CJ said he's going to see Asia in Detroit next week. Cool. I think you'll have a good time. Somebody else asked about Detroit. Listen, we're going to bring Asia on the show as well. So it's got a lot of good stuff here. Let me see. Okay. So, all right, you guys, listen, I got to respect the doctor's time. You know, his wife's probably over there like, let's go. Let's get this dinner.
Amen to that.
KG said he has your book and that book is fire. Great information. So.
Well, I appreciate that. Love to hear that. A fire comment.
Who else? Okay. So everybody make sure you like and subscribe to the video. Okay. So good stuff. So everybody, we've got to run. I've got to respect his time. Definitely check out Alternative Financial Medicine, the high yield investing in a low yield world. This thing is so important, you guys. I don't know how to stress it to you. I still have people every day emailing me that they did not know they could get 15, 20% interest on their money, 10% interest on their money. I mean, people are literally accusing me of scams. They're like, there's just no way. And the information's out here. People like Dr. Meadows are putting it out here. I'm putting it out here. We have people telling you this, and it's a real thing. It's a real opportunities are out here. Like, and you don't have to sit on the sidelines. You don't have to be scared. There's so many ways to get in. Dr. Meadows, can you go back one more time and show me the slide where all the houses are? I thought that was awesome. Just to close out the video.
Yeah.
You can. A couple more.
Yeah.
There you go. Look at that, you guys. Those are quality houses. I don't know where you live. Everybody lives in different parts of the country, but right now, from me looking here, clean, curb appeal, simple. You know, Hood Estate says this thing: clean, safe, functional. That's a lot of what it takes out there. So Dr. Meadows, thank you for coming tonight. Everybody, this is your girl, Erica from the Classy Climb blog. Thank you so much for being here. And many of you don't know, we'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow. I have a podcast coming out. It's going to have a lot of old work on it, so don't be surprised. A little bit of old work, a little bit of new work. Also, I'll be going to Florida, September 26th through the 29th for VidCon. I'll be out there, a lot of live video, a lot of interviews on the spot. Orlando, Florida, plus a retreat in the afternoon. So you guys might get a lot of content coming up, because in October, some things change here. But those of you who follow the blog will see some of those articles about the changes. So Dr. Meadows, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being great. Everybody, please say a nice wave. Thank you to Dr. Meadows. And I think your audio is off, but we'll definitely see you in the live Investing Wednesday, talking about options in the future.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a great night.
Okay.